This is the Proteus, the UK's first autonomous helicopter created in collaboration between military aircraft manufacturer Leonardo, the Ministry of Defence, and the Royal Navy. But delays in implementing the Strategic Defence Review mean this technological feat could be lost to the UK's armed forces, as Leonardo is at risk of closure or scaling back if it doesn't get its £1 billion medium-sized helicopter contract from the Ministry of Defence. Leonardo has been the sole bidder for nearly 18 months, and a decision from the government has been delayed until March. Leonardo at Westlands employs over 3,000 people at its Yeovil site, and 12,000 more supply chain jobs would be impacted by a potential closure or scaling back. I asked Leonardo's Vice President of Market Development if he could offer any clarity.
Your boss has said that if a decision isn't made on Leonardo's £1 billion contract for medium helicopters, the factory here at Westlands would shut.
Yeah.
Over 3,000 jobs would be lost, and also all the skills that have been gained in making something like this would be lost. How confident are you that a decision will be made on the medium helicopters?
Well, the first thing I'd say, he never specifically said we would close down.
He said we can't subsidise the Oval forever. It's 14 years that we haven't had a contract from the UK government.
Which is different than saying he'll close us down. So there is, I could understand the frustration there from my senior executives that sit above me. It is important, the contract is important to us, but like everybody else, we're waiting to find out. I understand the frustrations, both on our side and within the Ministry of Defence, waiting for the Defence Investment Plan to come out. We're a company that has been here on site for well over 80 years, manufacturing aircraft. We still see the next 80 years of developing wonderful things like Proteus and other crewed platforms as well. So, it is important, but I wouldn't say it is the ultimate thing for this site.
I was at Westlands to see Leonardo's new Proteus helicopters, the UK's first autonomous helicopter, which was created in a pilot scheme between Leonardo, the MOD, and the Royal Navy. The Proteus, which took its maiden voyage in January of this year, was created to be used in tandem with other crewed aircraft and warships in the Royal Navy. At a time when recruitment and retention shortfalls are seen as an ongoing challenge in the armed forces, the Proteus's automation would help the Navy build mass in a cost-effective way. Adam Wardrop told me more about how the helicopter would work.
It's not an unmanned helicopter, and I think that's quite a natural mistake most people make. It's an autonomous test bed, and that's essentially what it is. It's an experimental platform with some very clever brains inside it that, unlike remotely piloted aircraft or drones that people see on the news every day, this is something very different. This is a platform that thinks for itself, will fly for itself, it will make decisions by itself, without a human being actually telling it what to do at any particular point. It will program it, it will go and do it, it will make decisions on the fly.
So when do you expect this to be up and running and being used by the Navy?
Well, that's quite a complex question because I don't have a straightforward answer because it depends on a number of things. One, quite frankly, money. It depends on the levels of investment. The more investment we get, the quicker we can develop this into a product stage. And there's still quite a lot of work to do. Autonomy in the sense of a platform being able to take off in numbers on a dark night out to sea, go look for submarines, and then act on that and drop sonar buoys and everything else that we'd expect this to do in the future is some way off. 5 years plus, well over, potentially, in order to get to that stage. What we have is a number of incremental steps in the technology development to get us to that point. Some huge hurdles that we're well on the road to delivering.
What scenarios do you see the Proteus being used in?
As I say, there are many mission sets it could be used in. Specifically, where we are with the Royal Navy now, we're looking at predominantly anti-submarine warfare and sort of persistent surveillance. So those jobs that are classified as dangerous and dirty and dull, quite frankly, that were right now, a helicopter with 5 or 6 people on board are spending 4 or 5 hours in the hover over the sea looking for a submarine. Those kind of tasks where you could use that crew to do something a little bit more dynamic, you could use that crew to do something that requires more mission judgment or human judgment and replace it with a platform like Proteus that could do those tasks for a lot longer. You don't need to worry about the crew, you don't need to worry about feeding them, watering them or anything like that. You can stay airborne much longer and of course to reduce the risk to life of those people as well.
Could this be used in adverse weather conditions? The head of the RAF, he admitted that due to long wars in the Middle East, The service would struggle in the sub-zero temperatures in the high north.
Yeah.
So could this be used in kind of like snow, sleet, sub-zero temperatures?
There are different weather conditions for
Yeah.
every platform. I mean,
Yeah.
pure physics dictates. I'm a helicopter pilot by background. There aren't many aircraft, in fact, no aircraft that can operate in all weather conditions. It's just not a thing. And so those extremities will be explored. What I'd say about Proteus and working with the Royal Navy, it was designed from the base up to operate in the high north, in the North Atlantic, in really bad sea conditions, because we knew that ultimately that's where it's going to be. So this is designed with that in mind. So it's not something that if they asked us to move it, up into the Arctic, it would be a shock to us, because we've designed it ground up to operate there already.
Upon arrival, however, it was revealed that the initial contract for the Proteus had run out without a final agreement. Adam Wardrop told me he is confident further funding would come.
We are in close discussions with the Royal Navy. We've been very close. We've been a partner throughout the last 4 years. And what you see behind us is not just a Leonardo-only venture. It is a Royal Navy, Ministry of Defence, Leonardo venture. We know that the Ministry of Defence at the moment have some funding challenges, but what is clear to me is that the Strategic Defence Review, the Defence Industrial Strategy, if you look at the vector of most militaries around the world, autonomy and uncrewed aviation, uncrewed flight is very much at the forefront of where they're going. So with that in mind, and bearing in mind that we think Proteus is a world leader where we are right now in this technology, we're relatively optimistic that more funding will come.
However, Adam Dance, the MP for Yeovil, was less optimistic.
The scaling back of the site is a concern. I don't believe if they don't get the contract, the site would shut immediately. Don't believe that at all. I do believe there will be a considerable scale back immediately. I think the real risk I have is that if we don't get this new medium helicopter contract, then Proteus could be lost, because it's not the fact that Proteus couldn't be there, but the money isn't there for Proteus at the moment. So you scale back those skills jobs, those key skilled jobs. Where do you have, when Proteus comes back around and the government say they now want to invest in uncrewed helicopters, we haven't got those skilled jobs left in the UK.
If you go to Yeovil, you're greeted by a classic case of a struggling British high street. Boarded up shop windows and to let signs are a frequent occurrence. Leonardo at Westlands employs over 3,000 people at its Yeovil site, and 12,000 more supply chain jobs would be impacted by a potential closure or scaling back. For Yeovil itself, the impact would be huge, according to Adam Dance.
There is a real big concern. Here in Yeovil, the impact could be huge, 3,300 jobs. The average wage for those staff is £58,000 a year. For a place in the southwest like Yeovil, that is a really high average wage. Also, £1.2 million a year in social value and apprenticeships to Yeovil College. It's a huge impact, but not just for Yeovil, for the southwest. 12,000 jobs in the supply chain. This is all at risk, potentially, if they don't get the contract. And that's why this government need to really wake up. This is a win-win, and we haven't seen many of them through the Labour government at the moment, have we, with all the U-turns. But this is a win. There's one sole bidder for this contract. Just get on and deliver that contract. You could not go out of my office today and not talk to one person in the street who doesn't know someone who's worked at Westlands or now works at Leonardo. The social value they give our town is massive. As I said, the £1.2 million to Yeovil College, but also the investment it brings in from other organisations. And if this contract goes forward and we get some good news, it'll bring so much more positivity into the town with investment because of the social value that contract will have to give.
For now, the future of Westlands awaits a final decision on its medium-sized helicopters by the end of March. An MOD spokesperson said, "The UK's new medium helicopter program is ongoing, and no final procurement decisions have yet been made. That outcome will be confirmed in due course."